And I'm super happy to introduce our next speaker for today. She is a trainer and facilitator at Prezi. And she's also an experienced Search Inside Yourself trainer developed by Google. Please, Kinga Fekete, the stage is yours.
There are thousands of leaders and leadership profiles. There is the authentic leadership. There is the dictator leadership. There is the servant leadership. But most probably, the most interesting one for you will be the successful leader. So we will focus on this. What makes a successful leader? When Harvard Business School professor Bill George analyzed thousands of studies and conducted in-person interviews, he found that the best leadership profile doesn't exist. There is no such thing as the best leadership profile. Why? Because he found that the key to great leadership doesn't have so much to do with a set of specific personality traits. What he found is that the key to great leadership is emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is a skill. For you, as a leader, emotional intelligence is about gaining insight about yourself and others, and using this information to guide your thinking and actions. Essentially, it's about leading with insight. Emotional intelligence is pretty popular nowadays. I was also very happy to see that you responded to the poll, the Slido poll, with highlighting the two things most important in a leader, which was, I think, empathy and trust. So this is confirmed actually by Harvard Business Review's top 3 articles for 2019. These were the top 3 articles. One is about feedback. The other one is What Makes a Leader, which is actually about emotional intelligence. And the third one was about psychological safety. Tomorrow, you will hear a talk by Amber on feedback. And today, I'm going to talk about emotional intelligence and a bit of psychological safety as well. So you're covered, don't worry. The notion of emotional intelligence is not new. Even this article featured here by Dania Goldman, What Makes a Leader, was written 16 years ago. How comes that emotional intelligence is still in the top news? The reason behind this is that now we have a vast knowledge about what are the actual tools and practices which lead to building skills and which lead to measurable changes in the brain. So these tools and practices are part of my toolset as an HR business partner and facilitator. And among these, the Search Inside Yourself leadership training, which develops emotional intelligence, clearly stands out. I worked for years to get certified in this area, and so I can not only share this with the people I'm closely together working with, but also with a broader range of leaders, and now with you as well. So I brought you a couple of techniques from this training, which techniques build emotional intelligence, self-awareness, then social awareness, and then step-by-step builds emotional intelligence. So I will be guiding through on these steps. And actually these techniques are kind of building bridges between you and others. And the first pillar of this bridge is creating awareness by stepping out from the autopilot mode. So let's see this. Imagine that you'd like to get to a beautiful place. Somewhere warm, somewhere nice, the sun is shining, you are close to the beach, and your only task is to sit under a palm tree and sip your favorite drink. How does that sound? There are some smiley faces here and there. It sounds good in a February morning, right? So you decide to use your new Tesla Cybertruck, and you sit in the car, you turn on the self-driving mode, you turn on the autopilot mode, and then you relax and drift off to sleep. So you are traveling, and then at one point you just wake up, and you find yourself in a place where it's cold, it's dark, it's raining, there is wind, and you are far away from the beach. There must have been a malfunction, clearly. Would you be happy with your journey? Well, quite unlikely. Yet, this can happen to you on a normal Tuesday morning as well. And you don't even need to use your Tesla for it. You just need to run through your day without really consciously paying attention to what is happening. Essentially, being this autopilot mode. Malfunctions can always happen, like some stressful situation you didn't expect, a problem which just arose, closed deadline, or your 6th must-attend meeting in a row, right? And if during these moments your autopilot mode is still on, you can miss some important moments. It can happen that you might not even notice that a direct report would like to share with you something important. Or it can happen that you totally miss when arriving home that your partner had a rough day and would have needed your help. If, during these moments, your autopilot mode is on, you might be irritable without even noticing it. Maybe not drinking, eating for the whole day, and not taking care of yourself. So living in this autopilot mode, it's quite easy to find yourself in this rough place. In 2011, at Harvard, there was a study led by Matt Killingsworth. And by the way, if you're interested about the specific references, just let me know. I have a huge list. So Matt Killingsworth and his team, they did a study, and they found that 46.9% of the time we are awake, we are not really paying attention to what we are actually doing. So 46.9%, our thoughts are somewhere else. Essentially, we are in this autopilot mode. The study also found that those who had the techniques to direct their thoughts back to the present moment, back to what they were doing, and really focusing on the actions, what happened at that moment, they experienced higher levels of happiness. So living in this autopilot mode, it's not only important for you to create awareness and be attentive, but also to create important connections. And we will see how. Well, we have to tell that there are specific advantages of this autopilot mode. So, for example, when the autopilot mode kicks in, the subconscious takes over the lead in the brain, and you can save some precious energy. For example, let's just take that you are writing. Let's say you're writing a handwritten note, all right? And you don't really need to think about anymore how to write the letter A, right? It comes automatically. And it's totally okay to think about something else then. Or when you're driving and not a Tesla, and you're an experienced driver, not like me, you have this as an experience that you don't need to think about how to switch gears or how to drive. It comes to you automatically, and you might think about something else what is important too. So the real question is this. Out of this 46.9% spent in this autopilot mode, like our thoughts, your thoughts is not on what you're actually doing. So out of this 46.9%, how much time is actually justified in this mode? What will you miss if you are in this mode and not paying attention, not cultivating awareness about what is happening around you, with you and others? It turns out that there's a lot to be missed. You can miss some important moments. You can miss some important experiences, which kind of never come back. So the real question is the next step. when the autopilot mode is unhelpful for you, how can you step out of it? So I brought you some techniques which actually helps you doing that, to step out of the autopilot mode, and it works like a turn-off button for this autopilot mode in the brain. And this technique is really about gathering your thoughts and directing them to the present moment, to what is happening here. It's a kind of a turn-off moment for the autopilot and the reset button for your awareness. And yes, this is focused on getting your thoughts back to what is happening now. So I brought you an activity for that. And first of all, to do this activity, I'd like to ask you to, if you have anything in your hands or in your lap, please put it down, okay? We will pay attention to our breath, I would say, for about 2 minutes. So it's not going to be a long activity, don't worry about that. And what I'd like to ask you to do is to sit comfortably. The best is if you can sit with a straight back, with your hands gently relaxing on your lap. And the best is if both of your feet can touch the ground. So you can really sense into the sensations, what is happening in this present moment. So with that, just start observing how you're sensing the floor underneath your feet. You can move a little bit your feet just to sensing these sensations. How is it to move your feet on the ground? And start observing the points where you're sitting in the chair, how you can sense the chair underneath, observing as the chair holds you. If that would be comfortable, of course, you can close your eyes. It's totally fine to keep the eyes open. In that case, I invite you to rest your gaze somewhere in front of you, finding one point so you're not getting distracted. So with that, start observing the sounds around you. You may hear my voice. You may hear other sounds. Maybe the door, maybe the chairs. And with that, start observing your breathing. As you're breathing in and breathing out. Experimenting with observing a full cycle of breath as the air flows in and out of the body. You can even observe like small movements, maybe in the shoulders, as the shoulders gently move up and gently move down with each in-breath and out-breath. Observing a full cycle of breath, breathing in, breathing out. And let's close the activity with observing one more full cycle of breath as the air flows in and out of the body. So if your eyes were closed, now you can gently open them and maybe waking up the body a little bit. So just, moving your feet, gently moving your shoulders, your arms. Do whatever is comfortable for you at this moment. Maybe you can stretch yourself a little bit. Why not? Yeah, literally stretch, I'm hearing. Yeah. Okay, so with this small activity, what happened? Basically, you directed your thoughts to the present moment, to what is happening in the body, with the sensations, with your breathing. And with that, you created more awareness. In fact, the more you're doing this activity, and this builds in and becomes a skill, so the more you're directing your attention to the present moment, and it really becomes a skill, you will be able to create this space even in the midst of some triggers or stressful situations. In these cases, you can direct your attention to the present moment, and with that, creating awareness where you can consciously choose how you want to respond, and you will be not reacting by knee-jerk reactions or old patterns or unhelpful behaviors. So this is the power of this practice. So let's see what happens in the brain, all right? There were lots of research on what happens in the brain while you are doing the practices like this. There was a research by Antoine Lutz, neuroscientist, and his colleagues, and he found that those research participants who regularly practiced focused attention, meaning focusing their breath, their attention on the breath, how they're breathing in and breathing out, they could handle stress much more effectively. And besides that, when something challenging happened, there was a trigger, there was a situation which was challenging for them, they could let go of that experience much more easily. So essentially, they built emotional resilience. As simple as this activity can be, being aware, stepping out from the autopilot mode, and becoming aware of the moment of what is happening with you and then with others, this is your super skill as a leader. You can know hundreds of techniques about how to communicate, how to negotiate, how to give feedback, how to handle difficult conversations. If you are unable to step out from old behaviors which guide you, and you have some reactions which are not conscious, or later you might even regret them. So if you cannot step out from these, whatever technique you know or best practice won't work effectively. So I really encourage you to practice observing the present moment, stepping out from this autopilot mode, and creating awareness. And once you've done that, you actually build the first pillar. And once that awareness you became aware, now you can move a step further and become aware first about yourself. So I brought you another activity which is quite simple. In a matter of 3 breaths, you can create more insights about yourself. So 3 breaths, you step out from the autopilot mode and create insights about yourself. Let's see how does it look like. First of all, I will guide you through on this technique, okay? We'll let you know what is going to happen, and then we'll do it together, okay? So this one, the first breath, I will ask you to just observe the breath, basically stepping out from this autopilot mode. Observing as you're breathing in, observing as you're breathing out. With the second breath, I will be asking you to just relax the body. Sometimes it's helpful to focus on the face muscles or the shoulders, the muscles in the shoulders. So with the second breath, I will be inviting you to just relax the shoulders or the muscles on the forehead, the muscles around the eyes, the muscles around the jaw. And with the third breath, I will be asking you to ask yourself a question. And this question is this: what is most important now? What is most important now? Stepping out from this autopilot mode and asking yourself what is important can give you valuable insights about how you want to continue your day, what do you want to focus on, how do you want to be there as a leader. So I really encourage you using this even in a meeting, in a one-on-one situation, everywhere where you would like to be conscious about how you want to be seen, be there, and how do you want to impact others. So let's do this together, okay? So 3 breaths. With the first breath, I invite you to just observe as the breath moves in and out. With the second breath, relax the body, shoulders, face. And with the third breath, ask yourself, What is most important now? And let a few answers arise in the mind. Okay, when you're ready and your eyes were closed, now you can open them. And basically, in this matter of 3 breaths, you can create this more insights about how you want to show up and what is important for you. Of course, after you stepped out from these old patterns and behaviors and created this awareness. And if you would like to up your game, and well, why not? I really suggest you to use these techniques to be aware of your emotions as well. So after relaxing the body, just asking yourself, how am I feeling right now? What is the need behind this emotion? There was a study done at Stanford by James Gross, and the study was about when a person in a group is upset and keeps their feelings bottled up, who are around the person, our blood pressure will go up, even if we don't consciously recognize that this person is angry or upset. So being aware about your emotions as a leader is key, not only for your own well-being, but for others as well. And this leads us, so now you stepped out from the autopilot mode, created awareness, and with these 3 breath techniques, you became aware and built insight about yourself. Now it's time to get to the 3rd pillar, which is about building insights about others. These valuable insights will lead to connections, trust, and psychological safety. Let's see how, okay? So we know that psychological safety is the key of high-performing teams. One reference where we know this is Google's Project Aristotle, where they wanted to find out what is the secret recipe for effective teams. And it turned out that who is on the team matters less than how these people interact, communicate, share their ideas, and observe their own contributions. So who is on the team matters less than how these people interact, share their thoughts, ideas, and contributions. And what's the basis of it? It's psychological safety, an atmosphere where people feel ready, open, and to share their thoughts, give feedback, and show up and stand up if it's needed. So the big question is, how can you establish this psychological safety? What can you do? And it turns out that by cultivating insights about others, and these insights can build stronger connections, which connections can become trust-based connections, and this trust leads to psychological safety. So let's analyze the insights and the connection parts a little bit. So how can you cultivate these insights and how these insights will turn to connection? Connection and feeling connected to others is one of our basic needs as humans. Let's do an experiment. Ready? Take a look at these pictures and choose the one you feel most connected to. There are no good or bad answers. Choose the one you feel most connected to. Do you have your choice? Some nods? Okay. You could have chosen any of the pictures above. It was your decision. And the point is exactly this. It was your decision. A decision which most of the times is unconscious and which shouldn't be based on race, gender, nationality, religion, or job title. However, many times it is. Your capacity to feel empathetic for, and connected to someone largely depends on what do you think whether these people or others belong to the same group with you or not. And this small information can have a bigger impact on how you can connect with others than you might think. In 2015, there was a study by Dr. David Eagleman and his colleagues. He's a neuroscientist again. And they put 130 participants in a brain scanner. And here's what the participants saw. They saw 6 hands on the screen. There was one hand randomly picked. And then that hand was stabbed by a syringe needle. When you see something like this, it activates the pain matrix in your brain, which comes online either when you are feeling pain or when you see someone else in pain. And here's the trick. The researchers added a label to each hand: Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, atheist, and Scientologist. And their question was, would the participants care as much when they see someone from a different group getting stabbed on the hand? And it turns out that when someone from the same group was getting stabbed on the hand, there was a large neural response in the brain. But when someone from a different group was getting stabbed, the effect was essentially a flat line. Of course, there are individual differences, but the trend is clear. A single word label is enough to change your brain's preconscious response to another person in pain. In other words, how much you care about them. A single word label is enough to change how much you care about others. And Dr. Eagleman also found that even atheists cared more about other atheists' hand. So it's not really about religion. It's about which team you are on. And for every team you are on, there is at least one that you don't. And that division can be based on anything: race, gender, nationality, religion, job title, whether someone is an individual contributor or a manager. If you perceive these people to be different than you and belonging to a different group, your brain's subconscious response will be a less empathetic one. Not only in a brain scanner, in a meeting room as well. And this can have a negative effect on how you can connect with others. So thankfully, there's a way how to deal with this. Okay, so there is a way how to override this unconscious bias of our brain. First of all, by stepping out from this autopilot mode, creating this awareness, what you already practiced, the next step is to start practicing and building mental habits. Mental habits which can override this unconscious bias. And the mental habit is about seeing similarities. As easy as it might seem, triggering your brain to focus on similarities whenever you are connecting or meeting anyone else. Seeing similarities primes your brain for empathy and connection, and also naturally inclines you to better understand others. So it's essentially triggering the brain to see similarities. I brought you another technique for this. First of all, I'll tell you what is going to happen, and then we will practice it, okay? So whenever you are in a social situation with other people, I really invite you to practice this after the talk in the break. When you meet new people, then do this. I'll tell you what. So when you are in this social situation, just ask yourself, how are we similar to each other? What is a fundamental human similarity which connects us? And let a few answers arise in the mind. So let's do this. Let's practice it now, all right? Choose a person you are working with, a colleague, a fellow manager, someone who you are working with, and just think about the person, okay? So think about the person. Let's step out from the autopilot mode and create some awareness with observing how you're breathing first. As you're breathing in, breathing out. As you're breathing in and breathing out. And ask yourself, how am I similar to this person? What is a fundamental human similarity which connects us? It can be that both of you were kids, both of you have a mother, both of you have friends, family, people who you feel connected to. And if you're ready, and if your eyes were closed, now you can open them. This was the activity. So in a matter of seconds, you can prime the brain to see similarities and kind of refocusing it to, for connection instead of differences. I really encourage you to build these mental habits. There is a reason they called habit. It will work, and they will work if when you can practice it more and more and really build it in. And that's the key. Just practice. So, for practice, I brought you another technique. Last one, I promise. And this technique is kind of brings everything together. Stepping out from the autopilot mode, creating insights about yourself, creating insights about others. And this activity will be based on listening. I know. You might say that listening is too basic. We do that all the time. However, listening is your other super skill. Listening is how you will find the root cause of some serious issues and how you will understand what's behind some strong emotions when you're talking to one of your direct reports or when you're talking to fellow managers or really anyone. So we cannot highlight listening more. So with that, I'd like to ask you to find yourself a partner, someone who sits close to you, okay? Someone who is close because there will be listening. Once you have a partner, I'll tell you what's next, okay? So find a partner who you can work with. And if you don't have a partner, just raise your hand, all right? So you can find each other. All right, there are some, okay. So, and that's even up there, if you don't have a partner, just raise your hand and try to find others who have their hands raised, okay? Okay. I see that there are some pairs made, okay? So I'll guide you through what is going to happen. The first step is, so our intention for the whole practice will be to practice mindful listening. But before that, I want to do an experiment, and let's practice now unmindful listening. Meaning, let's do it a partial listening this time, all right? Just as an experiment, just to see it, okay? One of you will be a speaker, and one of you will be a listener. If you are a speaker, I will be asking you to talk about what do you love about your work, or what kind of manager, what is a leader you want to be, or anything else what is meaningful for you, okay? If you are a listener, this time, in this experiment part, please do partial listening. You know, when sometimes you check your phone, sometimes you look around, you know the drill, right? Okay, so for that, the person who will be the speaker will be the person with shorter hair. Okay, 1 minute starts now. right, time out. Time out. Try directing your attention back to the stage. Okay, thank you. Was it familiar for you? Was it somewhat familiar? Well, somewhat, yes. We can naturally, of course, not just naturally, but we can easily fall into the trap of not really paying attention to others. So this is how the partial listening looks like. Now, let's do one listening, which is really about connection, stepping out from the autopilot mode, and building insights, all right? And for that, I like to ask you just to sit comfortably, start observing the breath by stepping out of the autopilot mode, observing as you're breathing in, breathing out, just relaxing a little bit, observing a full cycle of breath as the breath flows in and out. And ask yourself, how am I similar to this person I will be talking to? What is a fundamental human similarity which connects us? And let a few answers arise in the mind. And when you're ready, and if your eyes were closed, you can gently open the eyes. And the setup is the same. There will be one speaker, one listener. The topics are the same. The big difference is this. If you are a listener now, listen as if you would offer your full attention as a gift. You might nod, you might give feedback, nonverbal feedback. You might even ask some questions. But if you are a listener, make sure these questions support the speaker and are not coming from your own curiosity. Okay? So for this, I suggest the speaker will stay the same, all right? And the listener will stay the same. You know the difference. 2 minutes starts now. Okay, so time out. This was 2 minutes. And now it's time to switch roles. So if you were a speaker, now you become a listener. We are not going to do the unmindful listening again. We've done that, okay? So that's fine. So if you were a speaker, now you become a listener. And if you were a listener, now you become a speaker. First, let's do stepping out from the autopilot mode again, all right? So just for a few seconds, observing your breath, as the air flows in and out. Breathing in, breathing out. And just asking yourself, how am I similar to this person I'll be talking to? What is a fundamental human similarity which connects us? And let a few answers arise in the mind. Maybe you can find even new answers this time. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. The topic is the same, okay? So now we switch roles. And the speaker, you have 2 minutes. 2 minutes starts now. Okay, so that was the second round. And I invite you to, let's do a third round, okay? When you have a free flow conversation, how was this activity for you? How was it to be listened this way? How was it to listen this way? Did you notice any differences, any changes, or just add any reflections? 2 minutes starts now. Okay. So now let's slowly wrap up the discussions, bring the conversation to an end. And I really invite you to maybe continue these conversations during the break. You have the opportunity to do that. But before we do so, I'm very much interested who noticed a difference between the partial listening and the mindful listening. Any difference noticed? Yes, there are some hands in the air. Okay, very well. who knows there's a difference that stepping out from the autopilot mode, finding similarities between you and the other person had a positive impact on the conversation? Okay? All right, great. So stepping out from this autopilot mode, you could experience it, and also how to connect with others. The real power of stepping out from this autopilot mode and creating awareness is really in letting go of some unhelpful behaviors and patterns which might make you react instead of consciously responding. So, and with that, you can create stronger connections, trust, and psychological safety. So I really encourage you to practice this. So stop and observe, notice and reflect, and lead with insight. Thank you so much.
Well, Kinga, I feel very relaxed, very present. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're a little short on time, but let's do one question at least. What have we got on top? How does one realize they're in autopilot mode?
That's a very good question. So at first, if you are used to this autopilot mode, you might realize that you are tired and don't know why, that you are stressed, you don't have energy, you cannot focus. That's one very important way how to find this, that you cannot focus on one thing. And, or you might not, some others tell you that, did you notice this and that when he said this and this? And you said, I have no idea what you are talking about. So when you're clearly missing some examples and opportunities, and others can guide your attention to observe that, that can be.
Okay, and we'll do one more. We've got, how does one realize, no, guys, do you think being mindful is always good and needed?
I see this as a tool. So I don't think, as also Jürgen mentioned before, that there is no one super, I think he mentioned about coaches, that everyone wants to say that there is just one thing what is super great. I really believe that being mindful has to be part of your tool set. And being mindful is about being aware of yourself and others, and that's kind of a tool what you can use a lot. So I believe that, yes, it's important to be mindful most of the times. So I really invite you to practice this more and more.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We have here
Thank you so
something
much.
to remind
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.